Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. The 20-year war in Afghanistan ended with ramifications. A Marine commander is demanding accountability of the military leadership in charge of the Afghanistan mission. The officer is determined to sacrifice his 17 years of service to speak the truth. Cancel culture didn't take a break in America amid the Afghan debacle. Who are the new victims? A state senator from Minnesota shares her precious experience of choosing life. We were reminded that in difficult times, you can turn to prayer. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. The United States pulled its last military flight from Afghanistan at 3:29 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, August 30th. It marked the end of the 20-year war. Head of U.S. Central Command, General Frank McKenzie, announced the completion of the withdrawal and the evacuation yesterday. Sadly, McKenzie acknowledged there are still Americans who remain in Afghanistan, in the low hundreds. The general said, quote, "We didn't get out everyone that we wanted to get out." Secretary of State Antony Blinken later said the small number of Americans remaining is under 200. This is not surprising. During the past 2 weeks, after learning that at least thousands of Americans were trapped in the country, and they were later ordered not to travel to the airport due to terrorist attacks, we knew that to end everything by August 31st wasn't realistic. Lots of experts had warned of this. Given the dire situation in Afghanistan, it baffles one to think that the Biden administration would still choose meeting an arbitrary deadline over getting out at least every American citizen from the country. Biden now faces condemnation at home and abroad from Republicans and Democrats for the way he ended the war. The nation-building mission completely failed. The Taliban took over the country in the middle of the withdrawal. Massive American weapons and equipment estimated to be $85 billion were seized. Hundreds of Americans and tens of thousands of Afghan allies were left behind and could possibly become hostages. ISIS reemerged. The credibility of the United States has been damaged. It's fair to say that the 20-year war in Afghanistan is a failure. There were also serious questions about the intelligence reports used by the Pentagon and top military leaders regarding how quickly the Taliban took over Afghanistan. The U.S. military had to issue a warning to both active duty and retired service members that no disrespect of senior government leadership will be tolerated. But one commander departed from the party line. Following the terrorist bombing that killed 13 American soldiers and 169 Afghans, Marine Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller demanded accountability of senior military leaders in charge of the Afghanistan mission after carefully considering the consequences.
But I am saying, did any of you throw your rank on the table and say, hey, it's a bad idea to evacuate Bagram Airfield, the strategic air base, before we evacuate everyone? Did anyone do that? And when you didn't think to do that, did anyone raise their hand and say, we completely messed this up? I think it gives me some moral high ground to demand the same honesty, integrity, accountability from my senior leaders.
Scheller then questioned the heart and honesty of the military leaders for not holding up their end of the bargain. He said, quote, "We don't have senior leaders that own up and raise their hands and say we did not do this well in the end. Without that, we just keep repeating the same mistakes. I want to say this very strongly. I have been fighting for 17 years. I am willing to throw it all away to say to my senior leaders, I demand accountability." Scheller immediately received multiple calls from Marines asking him to take down the post. He was told while they all agree with him, nothing would change, but there would be a huge personal cost. Scheller was relieved from his command on Friday due to, quote, a loss of trust and confidence in his ability to command. In an online post on Monday, Scheller said his commanding officers ordered him to go to a hospital for mental health screening. Though he understood the order and had the test, Scheller questioned why some leaders excused the actions of military members because of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, saying the disorder does more damage than trauma from combat. Scheller wrote, "If you're worried about some, you should reach out and check on them, but never excuse a service member's actions with a wave of the hand of PTSD. You are crippling them by failing to hold them accountable." The officer also said, greater accountability from senior military leaders would go a long way in alleviating shame or guilt in service members. Scheller apologized if his initial video scared anyone and announced his resignation. He also forfeits all entitlements and retirement benefits, saying he doesn't want a single dollar. Scheller acknowledged his own fear about the decision he made, but he said, "I, like many of you, am very scared. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the ability to overcome it. At the end of the day, if I stand with accountability and integrity, the system can't beat me." In Washington, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy on Monday called for the House to return from recess. Several GOP lawmakers, including several veterans of the Afghanistan war, are seeking a vote on a bill that would require the Biden administration to provide regular updates on Americans left behind in Afghanistan and detail an evacuation plan for them. Representative Mike Gallagher, a Wisconsin Republican, originally proposed the bill to extend the withdrawal deadline until all Americans were evacuated. Since the withdrawal is now complete, Gallagher amended the bill for a post-withdrawal evacuation plan and demanded updates on military equipment and classified information also left behind. Jim Banks, another veteran Republican of the Afghanistan war, condemned the Biden administration for not having any plan to destroy or remove $85 billion worth of equipment now in the hands of the Taliban. The House is currently in recess until September 20th. While all the attention seems to be drawn to the debate of the Afghan withdrawal, big tech and woke finance continue their cancel culture. The new victims are independent journalist Alex Berenson, conservative news outlet The Gateway Pundit, and Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. On Saturday, Twitter permanently banned Berenson, who has built a large crowd of followers over his challenges of COVID-19 policies. The journalist made national headlines last year for criticizing coronavirus lockdowns and mandates, triggering a wave of big tech and media censorship of his writings. In a new tweet, Berenson said, "The COVID-19 vaccine does not stop infection or transmission." He said, quote, "Don't think of it as a vaccine. Think of it as best a therapeutic with a limited window of efficacy and terrible side effect profile that must be dosed in advance of illness." According to Berenson, this was the post that caused Twitter to bring him down. He has made a screen capture of the tweet and claimed it's entirely accurate. Last Thursday, Google took aim at the Gateway Pundit, a popular conservative news website. The tech giant will demonetize the site from the ad network effective September 1st because they have repeatedly found its content in violation of Google's policies. Google cited two categories of the violation, which were dangerous or derogatory content and misrepresentative, unreliable, and harmful claims. Loss of revenue from Google Ads, the dominating ad network on the internet, will incur a significant financial loss to most digital news sites. Now, General Michael Flynn, former Trump National Security Advisor and Director of Defense Intelligence Agency during the Obama era, was at the center of controversy for staunchly supporting President Trump in the aftermath of the 2020 election. Flynn is now a victim of woke finance. Chase Bank has informed Flynn that, quote, "After careful consideration, we decided to close your credit cards on September 18th, 2021, because continuing the relationship creates possible reputational risk to our company." Now, do you think the move will save the bank's reputation? Maybe in the circle of the woke establishment, sure. But its parent company, financial service behemoth JP Morgan Chase, has agreed to pay $920 million to resolve federal wire fraud charges. The company was accused of not one, but two separate market manipulation schemes to defraud precious metals and U.S. Treasury markets for unlawful gains. Clearly, they are not concerned about their reputation. And coming up, DeKalb County, Georgia violated chain of custody laws. Maricopa County Board of Supervisors in Arizona is still refusing to abide by Senate subpoenas, and a heartwarming story to end the show. But before we continue, I want to take a quick second to ask all my friends watching and my live chat family to please take a moment to hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, but most importantly, share this video. I'm depending on you, my friends, and the power of word of mouth to spread the truth. Also, to support the Eye Opener team, please consider donating to the show or purchasing a mug that matters. You can find the link in the description below, and as always, your support is greatly appreciated. Salute. New irregularities of absentee ballots came to light in DeKalb County, Georgia. In the 2020 election, DeKalb had around 62,000 absentee ballots cast in drop boxes. Yet over 70% of them were counted and certified despite violating state chain of custody requirements. Georgia law states that absentee ballots placed in drop boxes shall be immediately transported to the county registrar by the collection team. The collection team is responsible for signing a ballot transfer form indicating the number of ballots and time the ballots were picked up. Then the county registrar or a designee will sign off on the form after receiving the ballots. And how was the chain of custody requirement violated in DeKalb County, you may ask? Nearly half of the Dropbox absentee ballots were documented as being received by the election registrar a day after they were collected, as opposed to immediately. Another quarter of the absentee ballots had no time record. Why were the ballots counted and certified when there were clear violations of state law? The total number of absentee ballots in violation from DeKalb County alone is about 44,000. By comparison, Biden won the state of Georgia by a margin of 12,000 votes out of 5 million cast. That's a minimum 0.2% margin. So such anomalies do matter. The overwhelming number of absentee ballots or mail-in ballots seen in the 2020 election across the country has caused so many troubles. It just proves the election system isn't ready to process a huge number of absentee ballots properly. Traditionally, absentee ballots are only designed for citizens outside the country. Until each state sets up new and sufficient measures to secure the integrity of absentee voting, the push for nationwide vote by mail can't be justified, unless you want to see the same chaos in November 2020 repeated in future elections. A quick update on the Arizona audit. While the Senate is reviewing the draft audit report, Attorney General Mark Brnovich has determined the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors is in violation of state law by not complying with the Senate's subpoena. Brnovich ordered Maricopa County to comply and return over its election routers or forfeit state aid. The county would lose about $700 million a year. Brnovich gave the county board 30 days to resolve the violation. Maricopa County has replied that it is aware of the AG's decision and its board members are going to meet with their legal counsel and decide an appropriate path forward. We have a heartwarming story to end today's show. Julia Coleman is a state senator from Minnesota. She and her husband found out they were expecting twin boys shortly before she was elected senator. However, their joy was soon chased by heartache. Doctor diagnosed Coleman with twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. The syndrome would result in an imbalance in the flow of blood between the twins. Moreover, baby Charles was also facing growth restrictions that would result in less than optimal growth due to the unequal shared placenta with his brother James. As a solution, the Colemans were offered selective reduction to abort one baby to improve the chances of survival of the other. The couple instantly shook their heads. As Catholics, Coleman said abortion is never an option for them. She said even if they weren't Catholics, they could never choose to end the life of another human being. Coleman and her husband placed their faith in God, wishing to set an example for their toddler son, Adam. The senator said the pregnancy of her baby twins made her understand she had zero control over the situation and had to give everything to God. Coleman said, "When you give everything over to God, it's easier to keep going and remain strong." The family measured their baby's progress day by day. Miraculously, the twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome resolved itself without surgery. But they were still worried for the baby Charles. Coleman had to take 2 rounds of steroid shots to prepare her baby's lungs for birth and a round of magnesium to prevent their brains from bleeding. Finally, at 33 weeks, Coleman delivered her twins in May. Charles Norman, born first, took a big breath and immediately cried out as if to say, "I'm here, Mommy. I made it." James followed 2 minutes later and did the same. Both twins weighed much more than the doctors had expected. After all, the family wasn't sure if the 2 little guys would make it. Coleman said going home at the end of the day without your babies is probably the most gut-wrenching thing any parent has to do. But we got through it and have nerves of steel as a result. The twins already demonstrate different personalities. James is the Pooh Bear, as he is big, soft, and sleepy. Charles is the feisty one, probably because he has had to fight for his life since conception. Coleman said the more she meets mothers pregnant with multiples, the more she learns that selective reduction is being frequently pushed on mothers, especially mothers of triplets. Her advice to other struggling couples is to hold firm to their faith. She said she couldn't imagine one of her twins without the other. Have you ever felt helpless in life? Have you encountered situations that you had no control over, how things would unfold? Maybe that's a test of your heart. Maybe that's how people are reminded to have faith and believe in God. There are higher powers at play in this universe. Under the most difficult situations, we should keep striving forward, and when you exercise a righteous character, you'll be blessed by God. And that's it for today, my friends. Check out the playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me in the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on Newmaker, Gab, Parler, and Getter. Don't forget, please sign up to the email list so we can stay in touch. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.